Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another Guild Wars 2 episode. I wanted to go into a build I've been using a lot lately. First of all, I absolutely love this outfit that I got. It is really evil looking. I got it specifically because it looks like, burning. It looks kind of tanky. And that is the actual build that we're going to be covering today. Let me get over here a little bit closer to some safe spot. And we can look over the actual build. Now, the gear I'm actually wearing, this is going to be crazy for an engineer, but this is a build that I've been experimenting with to see if it was possible. And let me start here with the specializations, okay? Firearms, Alchemy, and Inventions, okay? Firearms are going to be going... Well, actually, there's a lot of variation, but let me tell you the thrust of the build. Juggernaut. I decided to try and see if I could come up with... Now, once upon a time... The original Juggernaut, before the actual recent patch that revamped all the talents, the original Juggernaut also gave toughness. As well as might and stability, it gave toughness to kind of increase your durability as a engineer being in close range. And engineers wear medium armor, not heavy armor. That's something to keep in mind. So it doesn't have toughness anymore, but it still has stability constantly. And it has might. You can stack up to a 6 stack of might, as you can see down here. Might stacks intensity. That adds to your power and to your condition damage. Stability means you can't get stunned. You cannot get taunted, which means to have your target changed. Dazed, floated, sunk, feared, launched, pulled, pushed back, knocked down. I think I can be rooted in place, but we have solutions for that. Basically, okay, firearms. Critical hit chance is going to be very similar to the condition-heavy build that I was going into the last video. This is bleeds, 33% chance to add bleed to your target. You've got heavy armor exploit right here, number 2. This basically you have a 50-50 chance every time you critical hit, you're going to add a vulnerability to your foe, and you get swiftness. That's very, very cool. The vulnerability is super helpful because that means that the target takes more and more and more damage. It mounts, and you'll stack this on a target real quick. Critical hits. Bleeding targets have a chance to get greater critical hit percentage. Now here, there's a couple of ways you can go. Gain condition damage based on percentage of precision. You get a 10% bonus to your condition damage based upon your precision. Now, my condition damage right now is 1,088. If I switch this, it drops to 964. I don't think that's a huge difference. That's about 120 points, basically. And that is, some people would say, significant, but here's the thing. If you have this, and you're within short range, because you're going to be using Juggernaut is centered around the flamethrower. The flamethrower weapon kit. That is going to be your primary weapon. That's going to be what you're using all the time. It is going to be flamethrower plus elixirs for this build. So most of the work you're going to be doing is with this weapon kit, the flamethrower, tapping elixirs every once in a while, but you're pretty much never going to swap off this, which means you'll always have stability. You'll always have those 6 stacks of might at least. This will give you fury. Fury means you have a 20% increased critical hit chance. Now, I don't find this useful specifically because my guy already has a very high critical hit percentage chance. Critical chance, it is 20%, but I tell you what, it fires off all the time. I don't know if that's a bug, but it's the way it's always been. Before the patch and stat revamp and after, I critical hit quite often, so I really don't need this. So I use pinpoint distribution. That gives me a little bit extra condition damage, which means fire does more damage, bleeds do more damage. If you look, 238, 260. That doesn't seem like a lot, but once you start getting a lot of bleeds, a lot of burns, it adds up. Now, once you have bleeding, your bleeding lasts longer, 33%. So all your bleeds that you apply on the target have a longer duration. And of course, then there's Juggernaut. Now, if we swap down to Alchemy, there is Elixir B at 75% health. This fires off and gives you swiftness, retaliation, might, fury, a whole bunch of might stacks. It even removes a condition when it fires off. This is a wonderful thing to automatically happen when you hit 75%. Here you can go a couple of different ways. This one is useless because we're not going to be using the med kit. We're going to be using the Elixir H for healing. But you could do, technically speaking, you could go this way, but here's why I say this is useless. All these conditions, stun, daze, knockdown, knockback, launch, float, sink, fear. Yeah, stability prevents all of that. So the only time this will ever actually trigger is if your stability gets debuffed off of you, and it's only going to stay off of you for less than 3 seconds. So worst case scenario, for a second or two, you don't have stability and you might get feared or knocked back. But as soon as this cycles, you see an interval, 3 seconds, you get stability back, all that stuff gets peeled off of you. So this is probably never going to trigger. This is debatably useful because we're not using the med kit. So we're automatically going with invigorating speed. Every time you get swiftness right there, you get vigor, which means your endurance regeneration boosts by 50%. You get your endurance back quicker. Now, you'll also get swiftness when you use Elixir H, your healing potion. You'll get swiftness at random. Just like you'll get it here. You're not getting all of this stuff. Fury, Might, Retaliation. That's random. Wait a minute. Elixir B. Oh, this is a different version of the same thing. Okay. Elixir B. Yeah, that's that one. You gain all of that stuff, basically. And when you periodically heal, you will get periodically, randomly, either regen or swiftness or might or protection. I think you'll always get one of the regens. Sometimes you get double regen. It's really nice. Okay. Incoming conditions have a chance to convert to boon. Every 15 seconds, you'll see that 15 in the top right corner, that tooltip. Every 15 seconds, you're going to get a condition converted over to a boon, which basically means is a negative, a down thing. Like if you look over here, you see that little symbol next to the bigger, it looks like an up arrow, an up chevron. That is a boon, okay? If you look at this, swiftness is a boon. Vulnerability, the down chevron, is a condition. So basically what this is actually going to do, where is it? Right here. Every 15 seconds, it's going to get a random condition and turn it into a boon, a random buff. And it is a 100% chance, but it's every 15 seconds, which means every 15 seconds, you're automatically removing a condition. And that's great. Now, over here, we have a couple of different options. Let's see. These two. We are not using the elixir gun in this build, so this one's kind of useless. A lot of people would say use Elixir S. It shrinks and evades, so basically you get shrunk down super small, and you become invulnerable for 4 seconds. So you can run off and do some healing and come back. Now here's the downside. This is an interrupt, which means that no matter what's happening, this is going to interrupt all your current attacks or all your current actions. Now, it will be interrupting to save your life. However, if you're running a health, if you're using your health elixir and you're midway through drinking, and this fires off, you've just lost that health, your health potion, your Elixir H, for another 20 seconds. So I don't like this, actually. I'm not a fan of it. So I take regenerate health every second using the kit, the backpack regenerator. Now this is only 130 seconds, but it's 130 health, but it's every single second, and it stacks with other regen. And it's a really good method for topping yourself off in combat or between doses of Elixir H. Throwing or consuming elixirs removes a condition. This is very, very important. Every time you consume an elixir, you'll get a conditions removed 1. Conditions removed 1. Conditions removed 1 every single time. Even when you use these and you do AE effects, number of targets 5, conditions removed 1. Which means you can actually remove conditions from people affected by this. So you can remove conditions from yourself and your friends. Then there's elixir. Then there's HGH. This is very important because this build is very elixir heavy. You have might, and you gain might, which is even more power and condition damage. Plus the recharge for all elixirs is reduced by 20%. All elixir effects are increased by 20%. It's very, very cool. Then we come down to inventions. Okay? Cleansing Surge. Every time you use a healing skill, a cleansing pulse comes around you and removes 1 condition of all the types listed above. That is torment, poison, burning, bleed, confusion. So if you look up here, this removes a condition and itself because of this. No. Yeah, because of this removes a condition and it triggers the cleansing synergy, which means that basically This fires off in a radius of 300 around you. You automatically become a condition removal machine. All heals recharge when struck when you're below 25%. This is very important. This is also why this is bad. If you use elixir and you drop below 25% and start to drink it, this interrupts and you've just lost this. Automatic medical response is great. Your heal skill, and I think even your heal tool belt skill, will recharge the second you hit 25% health once every 10 seconds. If you're hitting 25% health or less more often than once every 10 seconds, you might have a problem. When you use a healing skill, you apply regeneration to nearby allies, which means you also, every time you heal, you pass on that regeneration to all your allies around you. Really nice. This means people, if you can tell people to stay close to you, stay behind you, and you can kind of be the main tank or maybe even an off tank. Mecha legs. Okay, here's where you have a little bit of variation. First of all, over here, I am actually using, if I turn off the flamethrower, I'm actually using pistol and shield offhand, specifically because if we go over here, the shield offers even more defense rating, and it's someplace as well where you can get more stats like toughness. That's one of the reasons why I'm using that. So you could do this. Shield skills gain recharge reduction and grant protection to nearby allies, but what this would insinuate is you'd have to turn off your flamethrower, fire off one of these to get the actual protection bonus, then go back to flamethrower. That only lasts 4 seconds. It's going to take you about 4 seconds to do that and swap back. I don't see the benefit in this. So I use automated medical response. Now there's this down here, smoke bomb. It fires off, but if you look at the disable statuses, stun, daze, knockback, pull, knockdown, sink, bloat, fear, taunt, or launch. It's never going to get triggered as long as we have stability. So it's kind of useless, which is why automated medical response is the best choice. Here was an error, let's say mecha legs. This reduces chill, cripple, and immobilization effects on you. The durations are dropped by 33%. And since those count as conditions, they're probably going to get removed by this at any given point in time randomly anyway. And it gives you a 25% movement speed increase. Now, you could do this when you trigger a blast finisher using a blast finisher. Allies near the effect are healed for 383 health. This is a blast finisher. If you put down a fire field and then blast this, explode it, when you fire it through, you can trigger a blast finisher. But that's just about the only way with this build you're going to use it. So I don't see it as very useful. This is centered around turrets, and right now it's kind of broken. Now, I could pick this because we do actually use the crate, the supply crate on this. It's actually very useful. But until this gets fixed, a lot of these bonuses don't get applied. Until this gets fixed, I would not worry about this. This is much more important to keep you mobile. Energy amplifier. You get a boost of healing to your healing power stat by 242 as long as you have regeneration. With as many things that give you some form of random regeneration, at least this, if not some other things, then this is actually very, very useful. It means your healing stats go up, even all of your healing stats for your neighbors, which is really nice. Then finally, Bunker Down. Bunker Down synergizes great with Juggernaut, and I will show you why. But basically what Bunker Down does is every time you crit, once every 2 seconds, a proximity mine will get dropped at your feet, as well as a bandage. Again, this is one of the reasons why stuff like this is so good. Your healing attribute is going to be boosted constantly because you're going to be getting healing and regen from your bandages that you get dropped. I'll show you that in a second. All the gear that I've actually got is Apothecary's gear. This is level 80 stuff. Toughness, healing power, condition damage. I'm doing condition damage instead of power because we're putting a lot of bleeds and burns on the foe. That means that those are going to do even more damage. I've got Superior Runes the Dolyak, specifically because I wanted toughness and I wanted vitality. The benefit is when you have all 6 of these slotted with Rune of the Dolyak, you get extra regen. It's only about 50 points per second, but it does stack with Backpack Regenerator. It does stack with this, so I get a tick of 150, about 130, and then another 50 at the same time every single second. So, but when we come back to this, these are all toughness, healing power, and condition damage. I've tested With toughness, vitality, and condition damage, I tried toughness, healing power, and power. And so far, the best actual yield, the highest result I've gotten, has actually been with this set right here. Toughness, healing power, condition damage, and you'll see why in a minute. I've got a sigil, a blood, 50% chance to heal on critical, and when as often as I crit, this triggers quite a bit. This means you get extra health. Sigil of purity, a 60% chance on crit, or on a hit, sorry, to remove a condition once every 10 seconds. This is once every 5 seconds. So this means that once every 10 seconds you can remove a condition this way. And you also have this triggering once every 15 seconds, so there's a lot of condition removal in this build. And that's very, very important. Now, a lot of this I have not actually optimized. Toughness, vitality, condition damage. Precision, toughness, condition damage, you'll see. But I could actually perk these up with stuff that matches up with this as well. I think toughness and healing power is very, very useful. So, now what I'm going to do, I've got, as you can see on my bar, let's go back to this real quick. I've got the actual flamethrower kit. I'm using Elixir H because this is an Elixir heavy build. I've got Elixir H for my healing, Elixir U for my second utility slot, and Elixir B for my third utility slot, okay? The way that I have my configuration set up, I hit this very commonly. 32-second recharge, 40-second recharge. This is when I want to burn something down quickly. I'll either get quickness or frenzy randomly, and then you'll get haste and might. So basically what ends up happening is you get this sudden burst of attack damage and or attack speed, and then a potential extra crit chance and stuff like this. So this is basically when you need to do some extra damage output very, very quickly. Now there's a secondary benefit to this. The actual tool belt skill, Toss Elixir U, it puts a random condition, a random target spell in front of you. Now I'm going to show you what this does is, let's see, right there, you see this line facing away from you? It's going to do either a light wall, which is this, or a smoke wall. What this does is these block or reflect projectiles. This reflects them. So if you have a projectile heavy bad guy, you can toss this down in between the two of you and then still flamethrower them through the wall, but that will for a short duration, intercept projectiles or even reflect them back at the guy, giving you a burst of damage and giving you a slight reprieve of incoming damage. It's very, very useful. Elixir B gives you Fury, Might, which means it's going to be a big output, a damage output increase. Retaliation, which means if they attack you, they take damage reflected back at them. That's real big when you have multiple targets hitting you. Swiftness and Might. And of course, because of the weapon in question, the flamethrower, we'll be damaging things in a cone. So if I just go out here a random direction to find some bad guys. Oh, there's a risen chicken. This is going to die very, very quickly. Now, I don't know if you saw that, but in between the fight, you'll hear a chiming noise, okay? What that chiming noise is, let's go up this way. Ooh, I see a risen bull. That chiming noise is specifically every time one of these packs drops. And there it is. That is one of your first aid kits. When you press right up against a bad guy, I'm standing toe-to-toe with them. Those will automatically drop, and they'll trigger, which means I'm automatically picking those up every time they drop. About half the time, they'll drop on you. Another half of the time, basically it's 50-50. One half of the time they drop at your feet. The other half they drop inside the mob. So about half the time, those first aid bandages, bundles, are actually being automatically picked up because you're standing on them because you're pressing up against the bad guy. Now, let me see if I can find another risen bull. These aren't exactly a challenge, but you put down your firewall. If you have multiple targets or if you just want to buffer the damage a little bit, you use smoke screen. Smoke screen puts blindness on them for 5 seconds and their next attack misses. Smokescreen can be very critical when timed properly because they can have a big attack that's going to be coming in. You can actually smokescreen them real quick and make a miss with it. It's a guaranteed miss. So, I really have been pleased with this build and how well it's been working. Man, I am in the wrong part of town for all the bad guys. Vigil's Crusader. Let's go down here. So, stability works great. Let's go up here. There's not a lot of action happening in this part of Malcor's Leap. You see, my critical hits are netting me a healing source for my first aid bandages. It's also, you'll hear pops as I'm fighting bigger mobs. There will be occasional small pop-like explosions. Those pops are basically when I actually hit a crit and manage to actually get a proximity mine set at their feet, which also detonates immediately. I'm going to change locations here real quick. Let's go back to the front lines and see if we can find something in Cursed Shore. Okay, here I am on the one of the western shores, somewhere in Cursed Shore. I'm going to see if we can go out and find some trouble. I have my flamethrower equipped. I'm going to see what fights I can pick. Now, I can very easily solo standard veteran mobs. That's not a huge problem in the grand scheme of things, but it wasn't a real big problem with before. The only difference is that with my normal build, I lose health very quickly if a mob gets directly on me. What that means is that I have to be a lot more evasive, a lot more dodging about things, a lot more careful about my positioning. With this build, it is a lot more of a standard, just stand there and take it. So I really do. It's one of the reasons why I like this build. It feels a lot more durable. I still do feel like I'm doing less damage than this build, my other build, but this build is specifically designed for survivability. It is not designed for damage output, and that's something to keep in mind. Let's see who's in here. I've done 3 or 4 mobs at one time. That is not a problem. You do have to be careful, though. You want to actually tap that smoke screen as often as possible. Make sure you use your elixirs. And like I said, I do lose health. This is not an indestructible build, because I am basically trying to be a tank with a class that's in medium armor. And that's not intended by design. I don't think we're ever supposed to be that good. But a little bit of a damage burst there by using my second elixir. Now we go to my third one. I can top off real quick. And I haven't even had to hit my potion, my healing. Yeah, you don't get to do that. I'm walking over my bandages as I'm moving around. I try to either position it where they'll fall at my feet, or I can move around a little bit and pick them up, and while I'm moving, I can avoid some hits. So you do have to pay attention, and positioning still is important. You just got... Oh, I'm not messing with that. I hate rot mouths. They're a pain. Anyway, I do feel a lot more durable in this build. I feel a lot more capable in terms of being able to stand toe-to-toe. Now, this is a veteran giant. I have fought these things, but I have also died to them quite a bit. I'm going to see... Yeah, they have stability. I can't actually push them back. Gotta make sure I'm positioning myself on the other side so that I can actually get these larvae and kill them off pretty regularly. This is also where I want to make sure that I am actually trying to pick up. And I'm trying to use my smoke screen often. I'm trying to pick up my first aid kits as often as I can. Gonna herd these guys together a little bit. Make sure I'm not standing in the poison clouds. Every time he picks up a rock, he is tossing down some more of these grubs. I'm going to use my healing. And like I said, you're hitting in a wide cone shape with this flamethrower. Most people don't realize just how many targets you're actually hitting. Make sure to use your elixirs. Make sure to pick up your first aid kits. That is him down. Now, that's not just a veteran. That's a veteran giant. Those guys are hard. So I'm very proud of being able to do that because I can't solo them with my other build. That's why I see that as a really big victory for this build being capable. Now, I have been using this build in the Silver Wastes quite a bit. The Silver Wastes is way up here, and it's a level 80 zone. It's got a lot of events going on. The mobs here are very bad. About a lot of condition damage, a lot of ranged direct damage. You can die very quick not paying attention. And I can actually use this build quite easily in the Silver Waste, and I'm very survivable, but I do have to pay attention because you can, even this build, you can die within a second if you're not paying attention, based upon where you're standing or what mob you're facing. So, yeah, I'd definitely love to hear from you guys on what you think on this build, if you think it's something that you might try if you've got an engineer, or do you like playing a different style of engineer, dodging and moving around a little bit more. Nope, you're not getting away from me. You see, I'm automatically picking up my first aid kits. I'm keeping regeneration on. It's all about positioning. Boing, boing, boing. Do I need to repair anything? I can't remember. No, I don't. Okay. Thank you very much for joining me on this particular outing on this basically flamethrower tank build. I think it's viable. I think it's good. I'm going to give this a last shot so you guys can look at this. Basically, this is going to be the great way to remember it. Firearms, 211. Alchemy, 131. Inventions, 232. You can write it down that way. So basically, first position, second position, third position. That way you can make notes and slowly build into this, or just reference this video again. I really hope you guys do get use out of this. I hope you start to actually get some, motivation to explore some of these stranger builds. I really didn't think this would work. There are some alterations you could do if you wanted to go away from elixirs. I would say that you could actually drop HGH and move to incoming condition damage is reduced for each boon you have. You could go on a buff-heavy build. But if I do this, if you look, this is a 32 seconds, 40 seconds. You lose 8 seconds just by removing HGH. This is 50, but with HGH on, it's 40. So all of this time, that's 20, but without HGH, it's 25. All this time adds up very quickly. You can cycle through these because of HGH. You can cycle through all your potions rapid fire very quick. And also, don't forget to use your tool belt skills. You can pass on your buffs to friendly teammates. Even your stability you can pass on to them. You can put down this wall spell, this random spell effect, to put down a wall to block projectiles between you and the foe. I've had that literally with some of the mobs in Silver Waste. That saved my bacon more than a couple of times. Toss Elixir HGH, which gives regen randomly or vigor or might out to friendly opponents. Friendly allies. I really do like to use this. Also, when you're using Flamethrower, do put this on. Incendiary ammo. This does burning, but if you actually use incendiary ammo, you build burn stacks quicker on the target. One flame jet per burst can use all 3 of these. Your next 3 attacks, that'll trigger 3 times within this flame jet, which means, because it's attacks per second, 5. So you'll actually build up 3 or 4 stacks of burning very quickly. The more stacks of burning you get, the more damage it does. Also, Smoke Vent. Don't just blast it when you charge into a fight. Smoke Vent and Blindness can save your butt. You just have to time it. You have to keep in mind that that opponent is going to wind up a big attack. As soon as they start doing that, blast them with Smoke Vent and that attack will miss. This cycles every 20 seconds. I've used it in long fights several times, and it's very, very useful. Flame Blast is circumstantially useful. You have to fire it and then hit it a second time to detonate it, which is one of the things I don't like. I wish it exploded on contact. I think it used to do that way back at launch, but it doesn't do that anymore. So you have to kind of punch it several times. You have to tap the button several times when you're in close range. Something to keep in mind. Anyway, I'm going to quit babbling. I'm going to let you guys get on with this build. Remember, you're going to do toughness, healing power, and I suggest condition damage armor. I think it's called Apothecary's armor at higher level. You can also use Rune of the Dolyak or something else similar that gives either toughness and vitality, or you could go for toughness and more healing power. But Dolyak's been working very well for me. I do actually like it. This is Vaygrim signing off. Thank you very much for joining me. I will catch you guys in the next episode of Guild Wars 2. Bye-bye.